Hi, and welcome to At Home Art Lessons with the Art Groupies. We are going to be working with this groupie today, Observant Owen. Observant Owen is like a little ant that takes a walk across art pieces, and he notices everything. What he's going to notice today are the geometric shapes that are used to create African mud huts. African mud huts are usually found in rural areas made of mud, and the roofs, which are a cone shape, are usually made out of grass and leaves. Sometimes the grass is all in different layers, 2 layers here, and here there's several layers. Depends on the style of roof you would like. So we are going to create African mud huts, and we're going to be using geometric shapes to create our huts. Before we do that, we're going to start our background. I'm going to use bright, bold colors to create that African sky. I'm going to make it hot and intense like you would find the African climate. So I'm going to first start with one line, which is going to be my horizon line, which is going to separate my sky from the ground. My sky is going to have another type of line. It's going to have an arch for the sun. Down here towards the foreground, I'm going to create a wavy line for maybe the water that's going to be at my African village. I'm going to paint these in with bright, bold colors to try to mimic that hot, dry climate of Africa. Just like Observant Owen, I'm paying attention to the bright skies and the beautiful sunsets and sunrises that are seen in Africa. So very simple, bright, bold colors. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the sky. I'm okay with different colors blending through because the sky is just gorgeous in Africa. And what I'm trying to do in my art is mimic. Do the same type of thing that you would see in Africa. I'm using tempera paint. If you don't have any tempera paint, watercolor paint would be just fine. You could also use crowns or markers and just use those nice, bright, intense colors that you have. So my sky is done, and I want to do that first so I can work my way down. I'm going to go ahead and do some grass. Just using very simple brush strokes that are long and going across to fill in that space. I'm not real interested in lots of details or other things that you would find in the landscape, because what we're really concentrating on today is the geometric shapes that we're going to find in my African mud huts. So I'm just having fun making a nice colorful background landscape for my huts. I'm going to be trying to show perspective. Yeah, it's a big word. I'm going to try to show perspective in my art by making my mud huts larger towards the foreground or towards the front of the picture. And I'm also going to be making some huts seem smaller farther away, so closer to the horizon line are going to be my smaller huts. So I have my grass. Now I'm going to add some water for that water source for my tribe. African families that live together are usually called compounds, or the type of place where they live and their huts are found are called compounds. So now my background is finished. I'm going to set that aside and let that, I'm not going to set that aside. I'm going to add some contrast in my picture and try to make that sun appear nice and hot and bright by just making these beautiful lines around it. Wavy, wiggly lines to make it seem like, ooh, it is hot. I can add some lines in my water to make my water appear like it's rippling. Can do that on the edge as well. Maybe I'll go back over that horizon line to show some contrast. So now I'm going to set that aside so I can go ahead and create those huts. I'm going to use what we call a template in art. These are going to be my templates that I'm going to trace to create my huts. I'm going to use some nice beige or brown paper for the huts themselves. I'm going to line up that straight line with the edge of the paper so I don't have to cut out a lot, trying to save some time and also saving paper. So if I were to use my template in the middle, I wouldn't have much room left for anything else. But if I use it on the edge, I have some others left over to create more things with my paper. So these are for my huts. Now what's really cool is that different tribes in Africa, different families, do different things with their huts. Some of them create beautiful geometric shapes on their huts and color them and paint them in with beautiful colors. Some African families and tribes will draw motifs or pictures of animals of Africa like elephants and zebras, trees, giraffes, and some will just leave them plain. So I'm going to try to show a variety. I'm going to use this template twice, so I cut it out once for the roof, and then I'm going to also cut it out one more time for the bottom to try to get that layered feeling that you saw in that one picture. So I'm going to overlap and use that template twice with two different colors to try to get that appearance of it being layered, like so. So I can even take my scissors and slice up along that edge. Don't have to do the whole thing, to give that texture for my rooftop. I'm going to use another color and another template for the smaller hut. Again, remember, I'm trying to show perspective. I'm trying to show that there's depth and space being created in my mud huts by showing smaller huts in the background and bigger huts in the foreground. So there's my templates. So here are some pictures of different types of huts that are in Africa. We have some that have pictures of the animals that are found in Africa. And here are some geometric and beautiful colors that are painted on some of the huts. Here is a layered roof, and here is just a plain roof. So we're going to give that a whirl on our background. So again, I'm going to glue one of my huts closer to the foreground because that is going to appear closer. And I'm going to layer on that grass to get that layered look. I'm going to glue my second smaller hut further in the background to try and show perspective. Put that on top. So now I can try to show detail in the back here by just putting on some lines for that grass. I can add a door and some windows. Color them in. Don't have to fully color it in. We just want to give the idea that it's back there. I can also go ahead and put one on here for the doorway. Can also give some geometric shapes to make my designs more fun. Maybe one of my windows of my hut are inside those geometric shapes. Again, I'm trying to create perspective by making the huts that are towards the bottom bigger and the ones that are farther away on the horizon line smaller. Here's another type of hut, and I can overlap to make it appear even more in the distance. And here's another little hut I can put back here. And there is my compound of mud huts in Africa. We have textures, either drawn or cut out. We're creating perspective for bigger and closer to the bottom, farther away by making them smaller and towards the top or middle of the piece. So thanks for joining me to create our African mud huts. I hope you had fun on our little trip to Africa. Thanks for joining me.